Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Tawana Rivers. I am the CEO of the 10K Project. We are joined here this evening by Ms. Tamar Blue, who is the CEO of MentalHappy. And I am so excited to present this project to you guys. Tamar was raising money a few years ago and we missed her because her campaign was going to be over in a few days and she couldn't come and join us. And so when we were connected this time around, it was imperative that we got her here. And so we're going to go over the campaign link. We are blessed, truly blessed, because Tamar has 1 week left in her campaign. You guys know that normally I don't present campaigns to you that don't have at least 2 or 3 weeks left, because I know sometimes that disposable paycheck is 1 or 2 weeks away. But we could not let Tamar get away with one more capital raise and not come to us to give us the opportunity. So hopefully, you guys show up and show out so that we can, hear about this amazing campaign, have a lot of great questions. I love this campaign, and you're going to see why in just a moment. So let me go ahead and pull up the WeFunder page. Let me share my screen. When I first saw or heard about what Tamar was doing, it was right during COVID, and it was so necessary. And I remember thinking, this is what the world needs right now, because so much pain, so many people were hurting, so many people were struggling, so many people were alone. And when I saw this campaign, it just made me happy inside to see that someone was solving a problem that needed to be solved in real time. And so Tamar, thank you for the work that you and your team are doing at MentalHappy. And I'm excited to have you talk more about it with the community. So let me stop talking. Let me share this campaign page. Okay. So the campaign is on WeFunder. To date, $68,660 was raised. There's 5 days left in the campaign, right? Minimum investment is $250. This is a future equity offering. There's a $10 million valuation. There are also some investor perks. I always tell you guys, look at the entire campaign page and see the work that the founders and their teams are doing. There's a lot of great information out here. Tamar obviously is going to talk to us about a lot of that information, but there's a lot here for you to see. You'll be able to ask questions here this evening. But if you think of any additional questions, there's the Ask a Question section in the WeFunder page where you can ask some follow-up questions if you need to. But basically, we have the founder right here, right? So we get to ask anything and everything that we want. And Tamar, please feel free to share everything you ever wanted to tell anybody about MentalHappy. This here is not a 3-minute pitch, honey. You have us. We are here for you. The reason that we show up every Tuesday night is to celebrate the Black founder. And tonight we're celebrating you. So thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule, especially on the end of this capital raise. We know you're out there hustling to bring it home in the last days. So thank you for making this one of your stops.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here and just share with you guys what we're working on. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay.
We can.
All right. Okay, great. Yeah, I do have a deck to run through with you guys, but I just want to say I love your micro investors. They're really just kind of the backbone of just everything that we do here at MentalHappy. I tell all of our investors, like big or small, I meet with all of the investors all the time. We do live quarterly updates where we talk about the highs and the lows of the business. We talk about some of the challenges, how you guys can be helpful. So no matter the check size, I really love bringing investors in on just these type of Zoom calls. We've been doing them for the first time this year. We had our first quarterly live event. It was amazing to see so many investors in one place and just sharing ideas. And really talking about the growth of the company. So I hope to see some of you guys on those live investor calls. We also do quarterly investor updates as well, where you'll get an email on what's happening, how you can be helpful, what are some of the challenges we're looking to overcome, how the business is growing. and any future plans like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I hear so often people like, oh, I'm a small check, but really you make such a big impact, especially for us at MentalHappy. So never feel that way with us. But Tawana already introduced my name, so I'll just kind of give you guys a little bit of background about me personally, right? Because anybody or anything that you're putting money into, you want to make sure you know who they are and they're going to do the right things. I'm originally from South Florida. I grew up in a city called Delray Beach, Florida. I live in San Francisco, California now, with my husband, who cliche, he's a venture capitalist. I'm an entrepreneur. And we have a very rambunctious and adorable 15-month-old boy. And yeah, I'm first generation born here in the United States. Both of my parents were born in Haiti. I went to college at Florida State University. I graduated with a degree in economics and sociology. I love understanding how groups move, how society, how they make decisions. And I've actually been building and working on support groups in some capacity since high school. The very first support group that I started in my high school was called Safety Ambassadors, not to age myself, but I was 16 years old. Me and a couple of classmates just wanted to stop a couple of underclassmates from being bullied. So what we were doing was just like pairing kind of like the, not so popular, maybe new kids, maybe somebody who was being bullied with more senior level upperclassmen, cooler kids, letting them sit at the lunch table with certain kids, just so that they don't feel so alone. That project got some local press. Then it got the attention of the superintendent of the school district and then the governor. And then the Safety Ambassadors program ended up being a county-wide program and then eventually spreading to other counties in Florida. And then it eventually led to us getting invited out to the White House for an inauguration. So, and I replicated that same model when I went away to college at Florida State. I was part of the kind of student counseling program over at Tallahassee Community College, just across the way. So now just with my background in technology and just really understanding how to build software, I'm just kind of merging those two loves together. So that just kind of gives you guys a little bit of personal background on me and why I'm so passionate about this work and how long I've been doing it. But yeah, I'm happy to jump into the deck, Tawana, if that's the next order of things, and kind of walk you guys through what we're building, what it looks like, who our customers are, what our plans are for revenue, where it's going to come from, and just really some of the really great backers that MentalHappy has.
Wonderful. And you should have the ability to share your screen.
Okay, great. So I will share now. Something's in my way. All right, so we like to tell everyone that at MentalHappy, we are really building this world-class group therapy and support group platform, really through the lens of people who look like me, people who look like us, right? And that's very rare, and it's pretty unique in the space. And you guys will see why it's so important, but I'm sure many of you know why. So currently in the United States, there are only 31 licensed providers for every 100,000 people who may be in crisis at any given time. That number is like really staggering and very difficult for people to wrap their minds around. So that means like in terms of seeing a licensed, therapist, psychologist, there's only about 31 of those providers. So 100,000 people need help all at one time, only 31 people able to see them. And the former CEO of the American Psychological Association just said plainly, like, listen, there just really isn't enough human power to really meet the demands, the tsunami level demands is what he calls it, for mental health services. And unfortunately, the reason why that number is so incredibly staggering is that seeing a licensed professional is pretty expensive. So when you account for those 100,000 people, we're oftentimes not talking about people of color. We're not talking about people of, fixed income, people who live in rural areas. So we're really, as people of color, we're really outside of that 100,000 number population. We're almost really not even counted. So the solution MentalHappy has come up with and has been working on is really these expert-led support groups. The support groups include health and wellness providers who facilitate groups aimed at promoting conversation and personal growth and education. We've built a secure health tech platform that's HIPAA compliant, and also has some type of anonymous features to the platform as well. And we'll get into a little bit more about our security on the platform. And we're also growing the platform to really be a full service, a holistic database platform for health services. So we want to include things like science-backed digital tools, mini e-courses people can take, simple practices. If people have questions on even finding out what mental health terms are, we want to be that resource that people can turn to. So this is what the product looks like on the inside. This is the product from the perspective of health providers. We consider health providers our customer first, because the health providers are bringing in a lot of clients, patients, members that they work with. And for the health provider side, on our app, it allows the health providers to reach people in rural areas. So they're allowed to service people that, maybe they're in Texas, but, the person lives way outside of Houston, Texas, way outside of Dallas, Texas, right? Well, you can still get access to that provider through their online support group by utilizing our platform. They're also able to offer affordable mental health services. So what we find is that a lot of our customers come to us because they say like, hey, I'm having to, turn people away who can't afford $150, $180, $200 for a 50-minute session. This is an alternative rather than turning people away who are in need, who oftentimes are people of color, right? Are people on a fixed income or lower income. And they're also, with this platform, they're also able to meet the demands of provider fit and representation. That's really important. That's something that we actually try to put a strong emphasis on the platform, is really finding wellness providers and health providers who are of varying backgrounds, who are diverse backgrounds, people of Black and Brown and Latino Black backgrounds, so that people can see more of themselves in the providers that they select. And the providers are also able to connect patients and clients that have a similar life issue or life event in an online peer support group. So what we like to say with the MentalHappy model is that it's kind of like AA groups. If you guys are, obviously a lot of people are familiar with AA groups, but it's AA groups for all of the life events that people go through, not just alcoholism, but what about, caring for your parents? What about becoming a new parent? What about going through a divorce, transitioning out of the military? So we want people to be able to find support groups for anywhere that they are in life. And these health providers are able to incorporate our platform into their existing business while earning extra income for themselves. As you can see on the dashboard, it shows how much income that this particular provider, this health provider, has gained. He has 46 members participating in a group. He can see member activity, he can get their feedback and communicate and chat with them. And this is basically like a whole other business that they can just plug in while earning extra income. So our market really serves two people, serves the provider, and it also serves the group members themselves. We have a couple of different strategies. I call it our part one and our part two strategy on how we're going to get customers. Our part one on how we are acquiring customers right now is that we're really going after larger organizations and health providers and wellness providers themselves. And the reason why we do that is because those providers already have access to group members, and they're able to promote their group to their potential members. They're able to onboard new patients and clients onto our group. And they're also able to offer MentalHappy as an alternative service to their existing base. Why do they want to do this, you may ask? Because support groups are already happening all over the United States, but they're happening in kind of weird places. People are running them through like social media sites that aren't safe, Facebook groups that get hacked. People are posting Eventbrites. And these providers are already doing this work. It's very hard to collect payment. They don't have alternatives for their patients. So this is kind of like a very safe, all-in-one platform that makes doing the thing that they want to do, which is providing education, providing services, providing resources to people, a lot easier. Our second step plan, which is what we like to call the faster adoption, right? Like the bigger adoption on how we're going to really be a big business, is that we want to partner with a lot of payer providers. Payer providers like, for example, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, some of these larger organizations is who we intend on working with, mainly because a lot of payer providers now are starting to pay for mental health services. They're starting to offer it through Medicaid, they're starting to offer it through Medicare, and then just overall general insurance. And then we also want to help them reduce hospitalization rates. Right now in America, when people have a crisis, even if they're having like an emotional breakdown because something happened, maybe they lost a loved one, maybe they're going through a divorce, people are running to the emergency rooms when they're having emotional crisis. So payer providers, it's in their best interest to find solutions where people don't have to clog up the hospital systems. They don't have to kind of use insurance in an expensive way, right? And it also, for us in particular, this type of program where we are able to stretch insurance, make it cheaper, make it easier for people to get these mental health services, it's statistically shown to, according to the Mayo Clinic, increase health outcomes of underrepresented communities. So this directly also affects people like us. And in terms of how we intend on getting these bigger relationships, growing this kind of bigger side of the business, is that our team has experience and existing pipeline relationships with a lot of companies that in our MentalHappy history have been our customers as well. So we've listed out some of the companies here. Some of the bigger ones is like SAP Concur. We have an existing relationship with Devoted Health, UCF Benioff Children's Hospital. So tapping on these type of relationships to grow is our full intention. So this is why we are a big business. A lot of people like to focus on the very high end of the number, right? Because everybody wants something to be in the trillions. That's a nice number in place to be at. But we like to focus on who can we really service and obtain in the market. And when we look at just the number of digital health and health consumers that live in areas where there's little to no access to mental health resources. So once again, people living in those rural areas outside of like major cities, people who are in underrepresented communities, and people who are in either a low income or fixed income. We add all those numbers together. We do an estimate of anywhere from $5 a month to $15 a month is what we've surveyed people on what they're willing to spend on something like this. And that's how we come up with a $10 billion market for what we're doing in a $10 billion serviceable market on where we can grow and obtain. We do have competitors in the market. We know them very well. One of a couple of things about our closest competitors. So organizations like Circles, like PACE groups, they still fall in that bucket of staff shortage. Remember at the beginning of the slide at the presentation, I explained to you that there's only about 31 of those professionals for every 100,000 people in the United States. So some of our competitors are still requiring and only using licensed professionals to run their support groups. Their support groups tend to be very small as well, 7 to maybe 10 people in a group. So still not a lot of opportunity to get more people onto that platform, and still having the staffing shortage issue. Supportive is another, the parachute one in the middle. Supportive is another one. The platform is a little bit different. You can every single person on the platform is anonymous, which we have mixed feelings about, because support groups are supposed to be making you feel safe and making you feel invited. And we just don't like the idea of like anyone could be Joe Schmo behind the support group. So we do have anonymous features on the platform, but for security reasons, we don't allow everybody to be completely anonymous. The other two kind of adjacent markets that people try to place us into, but I put them on here just to prove that we're very different, is really one-to-one therapy. We're not in the one-to-one therapy business. We don't offer one-to-one therapy services, and foreseeably in the future, we don't plan to offer one-to-one therapy. Reason why, again, just not enough licensed therapists to go around for everyone. It's just not a scalable business model for us. We like the one-to-many model. It's something that as the business grows across the country and even expanding out to other countries, we feel very confident that even in other countries, other languages, people understand groups, right? People understand community, people understand organizing, be it through a church or being through whatever local affiliation. So we feel like the group model is something that we can scale even worldwide. But I will say our main competitors is really just the status quo on how we're finding our customers and really our true competition. We're finding that our customers are using unsafe social media sites to run their groups, or they're placing groups in places that really lack accessibility for people. So a group is posted on a bulletin board at a church or a cafe. If you don't frequent those places, you're never going to know that that support group is offered. Or people just can't be anonymous, or it's too anonymous. So there's a weird balance between that, is also what we're trying to solve. And then in places where it lacks ongoing support, we find that a lot of support groups are placed on like an Eventbrite, like a one-off event type thing. And it may be great to come together for that one event, but it's hard to get kind of continued support and build continued community with individuals. So this is just a breakdown of some of the best pieces of what makes our app great. The MentalHappy app is secure, it's searchable, and it's accessible. And it also has vetted support groups on the platform. That piece is really important. A lot of people always ask like, oh, how do you ensure that the people on the platform running the groups are who they say they are, and they have the information? Considering we take such a broad background of individuals, we have every single person or organization that wants to run a group on the platform complete an online application. We ask them who they are, where are they based, what type of group they want to run. Can they give us some curriculum guidelines or description on what the group will be about? If they have education, we ask them for proof of that. If they do have a license, we ask them for proof of that. If they're an advocate and have been teaching somewhere for a long time, we ask them for references, just so that we know the efficacy of the information that they're going to share is valid. On the platform, people are able to see upcoming sessions. So even if you come onto the platform and you're not exactly sure what group you may want to join, you're just kind of checking it out, seeing what this is. At the very least, you're able to see the topics of upcoming sessions that are happening. And if it's something that you want to join, you can see the date and time and what the session's about and what you'll maybe need to prepare if the group leader provides materials for you. And just like all the boundaries around the group session, kind of like how Tawana organizes these calls here, right? Like, you know what's going to happen. The other thing that people can do is that they can search groups by categories. So if someone is struggling with anxiety, parenting preteens, struggling with addiction, we have a really great Black men's mental health group. So we've really narrowed it down from when we started this part of the platform and what type of groups, what type of life support do people really want. We started with 100 different life events, and then we narrowed it down and we narrowed it down, we narrowed it down. And we found that about 27 of them resonated the most with people. It was the most requested different life events. So we have about 27 different type of life events that people can request on the platform. If for some reason there's something new that comes about and, we didn't really peg it as a group, people can submit requests. And that's how we continue to keep adding support groups on the platform. And so people who want to start support groups, we give them a list of like the top requested groups. And if they have a background in that topic, then they can select from that group. So the groups on, I'll say one more thing before I jump to that. Remember I said that there's a fine balance between allowing people to be anonymous, but not being completely invisible to us on the platform at MentalHappy. We do allow people to ask anonymous questions to the group leader. And the group leader can edit the question to take out any sensitive information. And they can choose to either accept or decline, depending on the sensitive nature of the question, and post it to the group. So their question gets asked and people can kind of chime in and participate in the question, but people in the group don't know who asked the question. So that's how we kind of balance you're anonymous, but you can be anonymous at times, but you're not completely invisible on the platform for security reasons. And lastly, I do want to say that, so in the beginning, I mentioned we don't just allow licensed therapists on the platform. We allow a very wide net of what we call wellness providers as well. And that includes everyone from mental health advocates to youth coaches, fitness coaches, church leaders is a big one for us, life coaches, certified mental health professionals, anyone who's like a teacher, and more importantly, people who are survivors, right? Like maybe someone has overcome something and they've spent the last, 10 years of their life, like advocating for this, educating people. Those are the type of individuals we want to welcome on the platform to be able to teach others, to inform others, and help others find support. So this is how we make money, which is important for a business. This is an example of a real customer on the platform. She runs 12-week cohorts. Sometimes she lets them run a bit longer than that. She came to us, Dr. Givens came to us because she was out in Texas. She was running, she runs a practice, like she's a licensed therapist. She also does like trauma therapy and holistic therapy and a lot of different other things. She came because she wanted to expand her practice. She wanted to have an opportunity to not turn people away when they can't afford the one-on-one therapy. And then she also wanted an opportunity to do more of the work that she loves, like educating people on what certain mental health terms mean, how to navigate, just really the things that you kind of need advice, but you don't necessarily need to sit down with a therapist every single week, right? Like we believe that therapy comes in a lot of forms and therapists come in a lot of forms. So she does charge $30 a month for her group, a little bit more on the higher end that we see in terms of pricing on the platform, but that's because she's a whole doctor, right? Like she's a full-blown like 12+ year professional. So we see anything from people charging $5 a month to their group. And then maybe I think the highest I've seen on the platform is like $45 a month on the platform. So for a whole doctor to come onto the platform, and she gives actually 3 sessions a month. So that's like 3 opportunities to talk to her, ask her anything, learn from her. And yeah, she gives people a lot of resources. And for us, we charge all the health providers on the platform 10% of what they earn monthly. And we came up with the 10% fee because that's really comparable to what we see in across different platforms, whether it's something like a Patreon to even an Airbnb, like that 10 to 14% is usually what platforms call for. So since launching in November 2021, one of the first things we did immediately, even like slightly prior to launching the platform, is we really wanted to validate early customers with some revenue. So we wanted to, even when the platform wasn't quite ready, we wanted to see if people were willing to sign up for a group, host their group, and charge people for it, and were more people paying for it. So just right out the gate, this is already a product that we've seen some revenue come through. since launching, we have over 2,700 active group members on the platform. We have 85 plus health providers that are leading groups. We consider active group members the number of individuals that are attending either weekly or bi-weekly group sessions, depending on how many their group has a month. And we're seeing some of these early pilots that we have. We have estimated about a 1 million in ARR and early pilots that will turn into paid partnerships by Q4 2024. So we're very excited about that, and just some of these early health providers, larger organizations that we're working with. And we are growing about 21% month over month in acquiring more and more of those health providers that are onboarding their patients or clients or members. On the side here is just one of my favorite testimonials from Dr. Givens's group, one of her earlier sessions. We allow group providers to provide 2 weeks free, and then after the 2 weeks, people can decide if they want to join and pay for the group. So just a testament from like the first session, people are signing up to pay. We do have just a really strong pathway to success for a lot of reasons. I mentioned to you guys that our team and myself were very familiar with working with larger organizations. I showed you a list of some of the really large companies that we were able to build annual partnership relationships with. And we plan to do the same thing again with this product. We are moving in a place, it says enterprise here, but that's just kind of like to keep the language consistent, but it's really like larger health providers. So a lot of those organizations that I mentioned, like, maybe working with Alcoholics Anonymous, maybe working with someone like One Medical. We already have 2 pilots that are in play this year. They're both, one is a recovery treatment program. So as people are coming out of their recovery treatment program, being placed in ongoing support groups. The other one is for a cancer patient recovery treatment program. So as patients are kind of coming out of that cancer treatment program, the support groups would be not only for them, but also for their caregivers, which I think is a fantastic idea. We didn't think of that. The company was like, we want to do this for both sides of those individuals. And we think that's fantastic. And that creates more of a user base for us. We do have some other partnerships, some larger partnerships that we're working on. One is potentially with one of our largest backers, Northwestern Mutual. Obviously, a lot of people know who Northwestern Mutual are. They've been around 160 something years. I might be misquoting that. They've been around a long time. They've survived a lot of recessions. They're one of our biggest backers. They're very excited about the potentiality of being able to offer our product to their customers. So that would be a great pathway for us. So these aren't just made up numbers. They're actually pretty conservative on how we plan to get to 1 million ARR by the end of 2024. So this is the team. Myself, I am a Y Combinator alum. I am going to just assume most of you, because you guys know are on WeFunder and you're actively investing, you know what Y Combinator is. But for those who don't know, Y Combinator is one of the most prestigious tech accelerators, tech funders in the world. They've spun out companies, early investor in like Airbnb, your favorite products like DoorDash, Dropbox, Stripe, Twitch, the thing that your kids are probably obsessed with, just more products than most people can probably name. You name it, they've invested in them. And actually, the co-founder of the company that became Twitch, Michael Seibel, is one of our investors as well. So Aziz is just amazing. I can't say enough things about him. He is our head of engineering. He's a data scientist at heart. We call him our ninja product solver. Like, he could just solve anything. Aziz has just been fantastic for our team. Really took on the product, expanded it, single-handedly just really solved a lot of the technical expansions that we need, and really looking to grow the product in terms of like what we do with our data, how do we secure our data. He's the man for all of those things. Mike came to us. He's previously of Coinbase, another Y Combinator, great company. Mike is just a fantastic product builder, has been building products since the 90s. What we love about him is that he helps us think through and plan out where the product is going and avoiding like technical debt, and thinking about like scaling as we add bigger and bigger organizations. Amy is just our ride or die. She brings just a lot of knowledge in terms of like the psychological space. I was telling her early on, really just my vision for MentalHappy, and she was just like, you know, there are a lot of studies on what you're wanting to do in terms of what it's called is like subjective mental health, subjective health, and Alcoholics Anonymous is a great example of what you're trying to do. And she's the one who kind of brought all those psychological journals and theories and all that research to what we're doing. So we're not just doing something, we're trying to do it based on sound science back things that work, right? Like if Alcoholics Anonymous works, it should be able to work for all those type of life events. And it's actually the oldest therapy that exists. It was therapy before therapy even existed. And it wasn't created by psychologists or anything like that. It was just two dudes who wanted to not go to the bar and go anywhere else together to not drink. So we model that. It's something that we hold true, and we apply a lot of the principles that they've built into our platform so that we are science-backed. Shalom is an award-winning designer. Everything you see on the product in terms of like how it looks, how it works, the user experience, him and I work very closely together, and he's just really phenomenal and out there. And I love the way he designs, and always just the imagery and the way he always puts like our needs of people of color at the forefront of the product. You don't see that often in the tech space. A lot of times products are built by people who don't look like us, not through our lens, but it's great to have a designer that is actually building something through our lens and our needs. So as you guys know, it is a bit of a hike for people of color, for women of color who look like me to even crack the $1 million venture mark. It's actually a big problem and a big deal at the same time in our space. I'm unfortunately sad to say there's probably only about 200 or so Black women who've actually cracked that mark. But I'm also proud to say that you know, we're part of that list. Hopefully that list continues to grow, and you guys are here because you're expanding that long list as well. We've raised over $1.2 million led by Northwestern Mutual Ventures. We are just so thrilled by that partnership and them backing us. Again, they've been in the industry the longest. They've been around 100+ years. They're a AAA rated company. So for them to give us such a substantial investment and also lead the round just speaks volumes. We're also backed by really top venture companies in Silicon Valley as well. I already told you guys about Y Combinator. Index Ventures is one. We have a couple of East Coast venture partners, Shy Angels, Social Impact Capital as well. We're raising an additional $1.5 million. We have about half of it already allocated. We plan to use that money to build out HIPAA compliant in-app video so that it's a little bit more of a seamless process for people accessing the video group sessions. We plan to expand our AWS stack. That means just better and stronger security, less hacking, less, you know, product going down, all those security things. And we also plan to increase our health provider acquisition. So bringing someone, we actually have a great person in mind, bringing them on board to help us secure some of those larger partnerships. That person's already kind of working with us part-time. She's been tremendous in helping us secure partnerships, or helping us work to secure partnerships in the military space, and also with like larger churches and organizations. I myself didn't realize how pastors and church leaders are really on the front lines of mental health. So we're really excited about some of those larger partnerships, and even with faith-based university systems. And also expanding partnerships with, like I said, with hospitals and payer providers, as I mentioned before. So I thank you all for your time, and I really do hope that you come join and build this global health company with us. We are raising on WeFunder. The reason why even though we're raising like the large, another 1 million and odd some change round at 10 million posts, and I leave just a very small allocation for WeFunder, is because I'm so passionate about giving people who look like us the opportunity to participate in these type of pre-IPO, pre-acquisition rounds. Like, by the time you heard of DoorDash, like, so many people have been made a millionaire, and so many of those people don't look like us. We're not in the rooms where those conversations happen. By the time you've heard of Airbnb, like, you've long missed your chance to invest in Airbnb. So you know, there's not, as you can see, Tawana showed you, there's not a whole lot of allocation. It's like an $85,000 goal. We've already hit 68,000 of it. And that's really just from our existing investors. We had a Start Engine community that we moved over, some of them moved over to like WeFunder and have reinvested again. So all that allocation that you see there is really people who've just put money into the company. Again, I mentioned that we are raising the $1.5 million round. Most of that allocation that we've already raised is also investors doubling down on their commitment to us. So definitely, from the bottom of my heart, I'm just so appreciative of investors. That's why I try to bring them into the conversation as much as possible. So I'm always available. I love chatting with you guys. If you have any additional questions, you can post them on the page, or you can email me, or you can find me on LinkedIn. But thank you so much for allowing me to present to you guys this opportunity and what we're doing. And I hope you'll consider joining us via our WeFunder round.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, Tamar. What a wonderful presentation. It was filled with information. I typically have a few more questions than I have tonight, but you were so thorough. So thank you very much. But I will start us off. For everyone else, if you want to go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A, that will be awesome. If you put some in the chat, you know, we can possibly miss them because they'll scroll so fast. So go ahead and put them in the Q&A for us. And then that way I can read them all and Tamar can respond. Tamar, if you want to stop sharing your screen so we can be bigger.
Yep.
Wonderful. So the first question I have is around the licensing for the actual group leaders. You know, I know personally that I've had therapists ask, where do you live? Because they're only licensed in certain states.
Yeah.
I also travel a lot, and I've had a situation where a therapist said, well, when you're away, I can't even talk to you. Like,
Right.
you've got to be you got to be home, pretty much in your home state,
Right.
in order to talk to you. So how do you get around that virtually?
Yeah, so there are two parts to what we do. Everyone on the platform, it's the overall grouping is support group therapy. So the therapists are allowed to provide support in terms of ask me anythings, as long as it's a broad, generic topic. They're not allowed to diagnose. They're not allowed to recommend medications or treatments. And they're also not allowed to take personal, back and forth communication. So that's why we're really particular and strict on the security with the anonymous question, because you literally can only just send a question in a particular format, and the therapist can either respond or decline it for security reasons and for licensing reasons. So peer support group therapy that's led by an expert can be done across any states. So that's another reason why we picked this model, because it is scalable across licensures. I mentioned to you all, Dr. Givens is based out in Texas, and she was leading this group nationwide. She had people from everywhere joining her group. So you are, in fact, very correct. If your Texas is, based in Florida, and, you're out in San Francisco, they can't, if they don't have a license in California, they can't see you. But if they lead a support group, or they lead a structured group therapy, they can get around those regulations. So it's something we're very mindful of. We're always on top of like how it's called digital health laws. We're always on top of like how digital health laws are changing. We're constantly part of forums. The other thing I didn't mention is that a lot of our investors have these type of psychological health backgrounds themselves. We have a whole team of, I call them our brain trust advisor team. So if there is by chance an investor that has a background in this, you automatically get to be an advisor on that team. So we have people who are always on top of that research for us as well. And the laws as they change very quickly.
And what's the vetting process?
Yeah, so the vetting process for group leaders specifically is what you're asking, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I say that because we actually have group vetting process for both sides. So the group leaders themselves will submit an application. So you go to mentalhappy.com/leaders and you have to apply. You tell us who you are, where you live, tell us about your education, background, expertise. We want everything. So any social media page, because we do a little bit of recon work, like we see what you post on your personal page, on your professional page. We just try to get a sense of who you are online, and the types of things that you say. And if it seems like you're already educating people through your social platforms. And then we also dig into, can you provide us proof of like a degree? If you're just maybe a survivor and you're not like a licensed therapist, can you tell us where you've taught support groups before? So we ask, like, have you ever facilitated a support group? Do you have any references that can validate that you've facilitated a support group? We are in the very near future going to start automating some things like uploading your driver's license so that we can check for things like DUIs and things that necessarily don't have to do with therapy, but it's a character check. You know what I mean? Like it just, I mean, if you have like 2 DUIs, that kind of says a lot. You know what I mean? Like we can kind of make some assumptions. So we're also building out the system so that people can like automatically upload some of these and we can easily read things, because right now it's a lot of manual work and then submitting for background checks and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a pretty lengthy background check. We tell people that we get back to them in like about a week for the initial review, sometimes as much as 2 weeks if you don't actually have a license and we have to check other things. Now that's for the group leaders. We do also have we call it an onboarding process, but it is also a little bit of a vetting for the group members, because one of the things we're set up for and what we're not set up for is that we're set up to educate people. We're set up to bring people together in communities. We're set up to help people facilitate dialogue and navigate what they're experiencing. We're really not set up for like full-blown psychosis or people who are immediately in the way of like self-harm. So we want to ask the questions like, hey, are you currently seeing a therapist? Have you talked to someone about this issue before? Are you experiencing thoughts of self-harm? Do you have a history of self-harm? And, based on those kind of vetting wellness questions, we may try to send them to another partner that we have that is set up for crisis, be it, the suicide prevention hotline, Students for Psychosis. Like we have a lot of other partners that we can kind of help guide them to. And then we also want to make sure they're a real person. Like we want to make sure it's not bots or, something like that that's entering the system and just, wreaking havoc.
Very good. So you talked a little bit about the 5-year, revenue plan. We were able to see that. Can you talk to us about, from a technology standpoint, what enhancement would you like to see in year 5 that you don't have yet here in year 1 or 2?
Yeah. So a couple of things about the trajectory in the 5-year plan. A lot of people ask like, oh, okay, what's the exit plan? Because it's like 5 years, it's not 8 or 10. One of the things that we've been propositioned with a little bit, and we've been kind of like thinking through is like, is IPO the right path? Is acquisition the right path? And I'd slightly say we're more leaning towards acquisition right now. That may change. It's not like written in stone or guaranteed. Mainly just because of what we've been seeing in the market and the types of let's just say the types of people who've been asking questions of us and what we're building, and they're like really interested in like what we're building. And then to your question about like, what would I like to see in 5 years? I would love to see MentalHappy in 10 different countries, and different languages. We have one investor who's been starting to open up doors for us on the continent of Africa in Nambia. And we have another small group that we're just kind of piloting with out in Zambia. We're not set up to take payment on the continent because Stripe doesn't really work out there. So we're trying to find other payment partners for those types of countries. But we are at least testing the waters to see, I mean, people everywhere, in every economic situation have access to cell phones. So we're just trying to see like, is the group something that people would be interested in these different places? So definitely different countries and different languages, I would be ecstatic, especially being a bilingual speaker myself.
Very, very good. Jackie has a question. Jackie said, as an investor in MentalHappy from 2021,
Hi, Jackie.
Jackie, you got in even though she didn't come here. I tried to register with the Confidence Crew support group on the app. Yep. When will that session start?
Yeah. Hi, Jackie. Thanks for mentioning the Confidence Crew. I am so excited. That's my baby, the Confidence Crew, I'll tell you. So, we kind of get a little jealous on all these groups on the platform. And we decided that we're internally MentalHappy, we're going to sponsor some free groups on the platform. And one of the premises that we foundationally believe in is that no matter what you're trying to heal through in life, no matter what you're going through, just a positive mindset or just reframing the problem that you're going through, having the confidence to reframe the problem that you're going through is really key to healing through anything. And that's studies show that like 30%, a third of like all illness can be healed just through positive thoughts. So we wanted to offer this Confidence Crew group. It's led by Dr. Pritika Gonsalves. She's so great. She's been like a speaker and done some different things for us on the platform. So we've officially made her part of our advisory team, and she's going to be leading that group. But the Confidence Crew, if I'm not mistaken, it starts May 13th or 14th. I have to double check. I think it's the second week of May. And Jackie, you should see emails go out for that. If one didn't go out already, I think one goes out later on this week about it starting up. So we're really excited. I was literally talking to Dr. Pritika today about like some of the materials she has for that group. So yeah, sorry, I can go on and on about, and then we're also sponsoring another group internally at MentalHappy called Empowered Parents, because people can't get enough of parenting preteens and teens help. So that'll also, and these are free groups that we're offering to the community. So if you come onto the platform and you don't quite see a group that you want to join yet, you can at least join some of these groups, because we want to walk the walk and talk the talk of what we believe in.
Very, very good. Absolutely wonderful. Let me ask this question. No, before I ask that question, how do we download the app? Is it in all of the app stores? Like, how do we get it to become a utilizer of the app?
Yeah, so it's on iOS, it's on Android. We're getting ready to release an upgraded version of the web app as well. So, and then we're getting ready to, I believe after the summer, where we're going to release another version of Android. If I'm not, I'm thinking of the technical roadmap off the top of my head. But yes, we are available on all platforms. We're constantly upgrading them and making changes. We typically upgrade the web first, and then from a technical perspective, web is always easier to do, and then we move everything to mobile.
All right, I'm downloading it right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to play. All right. I'm doing my job, guys. You got to go ahead and download it.
Do you utilize a credentialing resource?
Yeah. Do you utilize a credentialing resource when you talk about vetting the physicians or the therapists?
Yeah, we do. So especially if somebody says they are a doctor, because that's a pretty serious allegation. That's a pretty serious,
Yeah.
that's a pretty serious allegation. Amy would probably better speak to what the credentialing resource that we use, but we have to like make sure if they say they're board certified something, or they are anything, MD this or whatever, like we have to check it. Because that's a big lie. That's a really big lie. And they're not just violating our rules, they're breaking the law, right? And if we don't do that, we are also in conjunction breaking the law. So it's for people who claim to have some type of like board credential somewhere, we have to either go through like the state or that credentialing body. So we usually ask them like, where'd you get the credentials for? What state is it certified? And most of them just have like just a licensing document that they can share, but we actually manually have to call and make sure that someone can send us a fax to verify like, okay, what they showed you is in fact correct, because we could literally be shut down if we allow one single person to go through without checking. So it's more than a background check.
Very good.
Okay, great.
I see up where Jackie Frederick had a comment earlier. She said she had a great connection for you. Someone named Sonia Ray. She's the CEO of
Blackfulness. Yeah, I know her. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know her. I love the connection, but I know of the company. Yeah.
Very good. So apparently for everybody else, it's a Black mindfulness practice community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is also fantastic.
And Talisha, our admin and founder, says she has a credentialing resource for you if you'd like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, you guys put us up on the link. That's cool.
Any other questions for Tamar? I know I've kind of dominated the questions. You guys got to jump in here. Any other questions?
I didn't do that good of a job, I don't think.
You really did. You really did.
Yeah.
Brenda said, what is the app? It's MentalHappy, Brenda.
MentalHappy.
Just type it in the let me tell you what the icon is. A green. Let me see if I can make it bigger here. So it's like a turquoise.
Yeah. MentalHappy. Yeah.
Rain says, will insurance policies cover the sessions taken online through the app?
Yeah. So thanks for that question, Rain. So one of the things, so that's our step 2 plan in terms of growth and customer adoption, is really working with payer providers. It would be great to partner with something like CVS Health, because CVS owns Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield. One of the things that we love about our partnership with Northwestern is that they do give us the credibility and also can open up doors to some of these like larger corporations. Typically like to see that you've worked with a corporation, like someone else has taken a risk on you. So yeah, we're definitely keen to get some of these things covered, or at least have in early stages have the ability to give people like super bill capability so that they can take it to their insurance company. We do feel like the mental health laws and coverage and everything is really starting to turn in our favor, whereas like even 5 years ago, much of this mental health stuff wasn't even covered.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Thanks for that question. Good question.
Well, that was a great question, Rain. Rain also said, how about Medicare, Medicaid, or Obamacare?
Yeah, that's a big one. We definitely have this really great, like I mentioned, a really great person. She's been working with us part-time. Once we close this round, she'll be coming on hopefully full-time. She comes from the world of like military benefits, navigating like government benefits and things of that nature. We want to be listed as a resource like on the Obamacare platform, or Care for, I think they changed the name because the
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, right? The Affordable Care. Yeah, it's still Obamacare to me, but we want to be listed as a resource on these type of platforms. We do want to qualify for Medicaid, Medicare. That is part of our step 2 plan. Anything that goes through the government, anything that goes through the government goes through like insurance, like some of these larger insurance companies, not going to lie to you, make it seem like, oh, we're going to get there in 6 months. Like it's just a longer sales cycle, but we're definitely working on it.
Very, very good. Any other questions?
And I do want to say we also aim to really keep the resources on the platform pretty affordable. Like we have some group leaders that want to start groups on the platform. They're like super ambitious. They're like, oh, I want to charge like $100 a month for this group. And we're just like, well, maybe start with, $10 a month, $15, mainly because we're encouraging them to really go for like quality and a good volume of people on their group and not exclude anyone. So affordability, even without the insurance, is still something that's very important to us, and us educating our leaders on pricing.
Anonymous says, very interesting. Almost sounds like Meetup for mental health services.
Yeah. I got to use that one. That is really good.
That's good. That is good.
Yeah. I've been telling people like Patreon for
no,
health
this is definitely more
That's
Meetup.
Good. Yeah. It's more Meetup. Yeah.
The question is, how are you working with EAP organizations or college advisors?
So the one deal that, on that growth chart, I showed you guys that there were like 6 of those kind of larger enterprise organizations that we're going to be working with in 2024. One of them is a faith-based university system. So that's kind of us getting into like the college and larger space. That's something like we're literally working on it now, and it may not come into fruition until like next year. So we're keen to work with those type of organizations, but we do recognize it's a little bit of a more of a vetting on us, right? They have to do their due diligence on us. And we have to run very small pilots at a time to make sure the system works for them and make sure it works for us, right? Because the one thing we don't want to do is take on business not worth having. Like it's just a lot of work, a lot of effort, and we don't even get paid at the end of the day. So, but yeah, it's something that we do want to do through churches especially, and university systems.
Very good. Anonymous has another question. It could be a different Anonymous, but what are the minimum and maximum size of the groups?
So for the online groups, because it's kind of like in a community forum, we let the leaders know to not let the group go past like 250 people, mainly because when we were doing like beta testing and piloting some of these groups. And I also want to say that we know this firsthand because we actually used to run support groups ourselves through our Facebook community. And I can give you guys a little bit of background on how we arrived at this, but I'll just answer the question first. So we just want the groups to, with 250 is like, even if a bunch of people are talking at the same time, and some people are kind of like flies on the wall. So not everybody is like chatty in the group, but we feel like 250 people can be seen, ask their questions. And if there are like 2 to 4 group sessions a month, everyone has like a date and time that, they'll attend the session without it feeling overly crowded. Anything above 250, we'll typically ask the leader. And I've only seen 250 maybe like twice, like in terms of like that many people in a group. It's typically somewhere around like anywhere from 40. I've seen as much as like 85, 90 people in a group. And then we just ask them to like, hey, open up another group.
Good. Rain says the insurance/government payouts would really increase the marketability and customer acquisition margins.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we can get her on board full time, especially someone who navigates, like literally she does that work for other organizations. So we're like stealing her from that grant writing, working with, submitting us to the government projects and stuff like that. So 100%, it would take a government project could be like $5 million, right? And then you're guaranteed that money for like 3 years. So So yeah, it would be pretty major for us. So again, this is why I love this type of micro investor community, because like you never really know. You never really know who's behind that check, right? Like you literally never know who's behind that check. Like Jackie's introduced me to some great people. And she's attended like the investor calls and has some great resources for us. Like you just, when you talk to your investors, you never know who's their brother, who's their uncle, who's, you know, who's their mom. Like I've literally had one investor introduce me to like 10 people in her family. I had one investor put in like $1,000, and then she had a sister put in $10,000, you know, and that sister opened up the door for us to get connected to another advisor. So it's just like, it seems small, but you just never know what's just behind it in terms of ideas, resources, and people and connections. So versus like 10 big investors, like 10 huge investors that are spread out amongst other founders, all the hundreds of founders that they're working with, versus a network of like 100, you know, I think aside from for our startup community alone, we have almost 700 investors that we talk to and meet with on a regular basis. So yeah, I love these type of research for the same thing that she just said, right? Like she knows that world. So that's somebody I'd want to follow up with and talk to.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Any other questions before I give my last statements and then let Tamar close it out? Y'all know what I'm gonna say. I'll start, and if you have any other questions you think of, go ahead and put them in the Q&A, and we'll jump in. You know, this campaign is really, and I don't want to say, we've even got some founders that have pitched to us before in our chat that are part of the community, and I don't want to say this to say that their campaigns were not as meaningful, right? And so I hope they know my heart and follow this. But anytime someone taps into the mental health space, right, it's a big deal, especially in the times that we are in, right? There's so many hurt people walking around trying to function, and so many people who are alone. And so I love that you partnered the community, right, with this. I'm glad this wasn't a one-to-one model, because so often those one-to-one models, not so often, those one-to-one models, in my opinion, don't solve for the loneliness factor, right? They don't solve for that. They may help you through some of the problems, but they don't solve for, at the end of the day, I'm alone. I don't have any. It reminds me of, there was recently, I saw a TikTok video, and the woman, it kind of went viral, but the woman was basically, you know, crying and saying how alone she felt, and how she didn't have anyone or anything, and how people minimize just the simple hug that we get, and we take it for granted, and she wished somebody hugged her. Like, it was so impactful. And I think about that times a million, people walking this earth, right, who are so hurt, lonely, oftentimes distressed, broken, whatever terminology you want to use, right? And there is not enough. You just told us 31 practitioners for every 100,000 people. That means all of those people are walking around just trying to cope on their own, without the skills, without the tools, without the support, right? You've created a business model around helping people be strong and be whole and be healthy, be happy. And so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for that, especially as a Black woman, right? And growing up in a Black family, therapy wasn't something we tossed around like cake. I mean, you just didn't talk about it, right?
Not my Black Caribbean family.
My Black family. And we got a touch of mental issues in my Black family. And instead it was talked about in a negative way, right? And you kind of, you didn't really go around the crazy uncle, right? Or the right? Or you didn't question why the cousin was crazy because her daddy was crazy, like all of those things, but nobody ever talked about the help that the people needed, or trying to get them help, or being more of that support system. We kind of shun them, right? Or we tell them to pray about it, right? Which is not always the therapy someone needs. And so the fact that you coupled these two so important things together, right? The work, right? The therapy itself with the community, I think is powerful. And so thank you for that, that you will save lives. You have saved lives.
Thank you.
And the work that you're doing, you know, is most impactful in today's world, where people are excessively violent and excessively mean and
Yeah.
all of those things that we see both on social media and in real life, right?
Because everybody's hurting and they're
Because
hurting and they're
everybody's
hurting
hurting. What do
people
we
in
say?
return. Hurt
Hurt people, right?
people. Yeah, true.
And so this campaign for me is special to be able to have you come to our platform and really share this with us, right?
Yeah.
So thank you very, very much. And for the
Yeah.
community,
Thank
I mean,
you.
you guys know why we're here, right? I say this every week. I'm not gonna surprise you one week and say something different, right? Spoiler alert. I'm not gonna say anything different because the mission will remain the same.
Yeah.
We are here, that you got it, Eddie, to share. You got it. Our job is to share the heck out of this campaign, right? Tamar has 5 days left in this campaign.
Yeah.
Campaign ends on the 30th. 5 days left, which means we got 0 time to play games, right? We typically got a couple of weeks. We can play a game. We can kind of, maybe I'll send it to cousin Ethel, right? And then you wait 3 days before you send it to cousin Ethel. We ain't got no time to play, right? Send it to Ethel now, right? Get it over to cousin Ethel right now. Yeah. Post it on your social platforms. Share it with all your family and friends, right? Do your due diligence. Consider adding it into your investment strategy and your portfolio. Yeah. But share it, please. Share the app. Share the campaign link, right? Because people may need the app more than anything else also. Yeah. And so, our job is to lift Black founders up and to help fill the gap that they have with getting the capital that they need. With the money that was allotted, I believe Tamar said $85,000 was allotted for this round. She's at $68,660 when we started the evening. So that's about what, $17,000 left that for the round. You guys know how I feel about founders that come to equity crowdfunding to give us an opportunity. I have a wonderful place in my heart for them because this is not easy money to raise, right? It's easier to raise the VC money than it is to raise the small.
Yeah. I get that all the time. People are like, oh, it's so hard. But like I said, you guys, I live in San Francisco, so I see firsthand. And San Francisco is like one of the most expensive places in the world. And I see firsthand how, wealthy white families are just getting wealthier. I see how, they're getting in these opportunities very early. They know of these things. They know they exist. They're like on the inside, and there aren't a lot of Black families here. I mean, we all know each other. It's like 6 of us, so we all know each other. No, there's more than 6, but okay, 7. Yeah, 7, right? But it's definitely the VC game is something that obviously you guys have seen just from the numbers that we've raised, we've done before. But I'm just so passionate about really just expanding opportunity to us. And really making room on my cap table for more people who look like us, people who can be on my board, people who can give me advice, resources, just through the lens that we're trying to build. Like we're trying to build this through the Black lens, and it's hard to do that if it's just me and a couple of employees, are in the room. We need more investors, more backers of color to be in the room, to have a seat at the table. So. Not a lot of allocation. I think the last time we left aside like $200,000 something. I don't have that much room this time around. That's why there's only like $17K left. But I still wanted to try to make room.
Well, thank you so very much for that. Guys, you understand the assignment. This is not complicated math, right? This is easy math. We've been presented with an opportunity. Now we have to decide if it's for us or not. And after we make that decision, we've got to act because we only have 5 days. So thank you guys so much for joining. Tamar, thank you so much for joining
thanks,
us.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, 10K Project. I love how you guys have grown. I met the 10K Project when I even met you before the camp. Remember, like I talked to you even before my campaign, I think, like very, very early on. I think we were still based in Vegas when I talked to you. So I think you were. Yeah. So it's just really nice to see how your organization has grown. I saw you have a woman CTO. I was like, why don't she get a woman CTO? Like, kill for what? um,
You
so
cannot have ours.
I know. I'm not gonna take her. But this is just tremendous, you guys. I've been in the tech game a long time. And like 7 years now. I mean, these type of groups did not exist when I tell you, they just did not exist. Even equity crowdfunding was just kind of starting to become a thing. I think WeFunder's only 12 years old.
Yep.
So yeah, it's we're doing big things brick by brick together. So this is great. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. Thank you for spending your night talking to me. I'm also on the East Coast, as it turns out. I'm visiting my mother-in-law who has some health issues. So I'm on the East Coast for a little while, but so I'm also up late, not on the West Coast time, at least only in my mind. But thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. And I look forward to connecting with you all. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, my dear, and prayers to your mother-in-law. Hope she gets better.
Thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful evening. Peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Good night.